So Wi-Fi is, of course, the right fit here because it's so widely available and accepted. So there should be as little friction as possible between what technology and how you use it at home and how you use it in the car.
Hey, this is Martha DeGrasse here again for Wi-Fi Alliance. And this is The Signal, our podcast where we give you the inside track on Wi-Fi. We want to deliver insight and perspective on the growing portfolio of Wi-Fi technologies that we see changing the connectivity landscape. These are meant to be smart conversations with industry leaders. In this episode, we'll be talking about in-car Wi-Fi with Walter Bronzi. He is Technical Product Lead for Connectivity Platforms and Wireless In-Car Services at BMW. Walter, welcome to The Signal.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and talk about Wi-Fi in cars.
Yeah, we are too. I think that all of your cars now come with Wi-Fi, and I think about half of all cars that are sold now come with Wi-Fi. Talk to us a little bit about why people need Wi-Fi in cars so much right now.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting space to be in. I think people are becoming more accustomed to having readily available and reliable Wi-Fi at home and at work. And they increasingly expect the same convenience on the road. And customer expectation for digital in-car features are on the rise. So is the importance of great connectivity for the automaker, and Wi-Fi has a big role to play here. So in general, we see that people carry more and more devices with them. So you have smartwatches, smartbands, smart rings, you have headphones and gaming controller. And, in a close future, we'll also have mixed reality glasses and virtual reality. And if you combine this with having more and more screens in cars, and having new experiences such as gaming or watching content, especially for passengers, suddenly you have a need for a very powerful and performant wireless interface for these devices to connect to the vehicle. And Wi-Fi is one of the technology that we use, and it's quite successful for that. So the demand for these in-car features has really exploded in the recent years. And I think a couple or 3 years ago, we introduced the 5G personal SIM or eSIM in the car. And this creates a very fast and powerful hotspot in the car. And so you basically, as an example, you can have the driver that is using a CarPlay or Android Auto, and simultaneously you will have a passenger who wants to stream content like movies or TV shows on their devices, and all connected to the same network basically inside the car.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you brought up 5G because cars also do use cellular, Bluetooth. So can you talk a little bit about how Wi-Fi is a good complement to all the other vehicular connectivity that we're used to?
Well, the goal here is to support as many devices as possible. And usually the automotive industry is not really setting the standards. So we focus more on providing what is the best platform and the best compatibility for all devices that might be in the market at this time. So Wi-Fi is, of course, the right fit here because it's so widely available and accepted. So many devices are using it, and we would not want to create a separate experience in the car. So there should be as little friction as possible between what technology and how you use it at home and how you use it in the car. For example, in your first connection or your reconnection to the car should be seamless and what you're used to at home. So having a QR code that allows you to scan and connect to the car. So this kind of things. And currently, I would say our main use case, as I mentioned before, like CarPlay or Android Auto, is this kind of mirroring features that allow you to have a familiar interface in the car. But we also have the Wi-Fi hotspot to be able to access that connectivity that you get to the car. And this would not work without Wi-Fi.
And is Wi-Fi 7 making a big difference for you?
Absolutely. And I would say, if you don't mind, I would start with like a little bit of history because we have at BMW specifically, we were really fully invested into a wireless and non-tethered experience for our customers. So in fact, we already had hotspots in 2010, and then we were the first one to introduce wireless CarPlay in 2015, which at the time I believe was Wi-Fi 4. Since then, we kind of try and push the boundaries of what Wi-Fi provides and what makes sense in a car. So we introduced, for example, the simultaneous dual band, so 2.4 and 5 gigahertz together. We had MIMO technology, Wi-Fi 6 adoption. This was just a couple of years ago. And of course, 6 gigahertz plays a big role, so 6E for the next generation of vehicles. I would say that each step really for us or for the automotive industry in general represents a significant improvement in car experience. So it's not that we are just adopting the latest standard just to be cool, but we really see some value that, would say it makes sense to implement this and, to have the newest chipset in the car.
Right. Yeah. I should mention I'm actually recording this podcast inside a BMW. So that's a great use case, right?
So as you can imagine, it's very hard to kind of guess what would happen in the car. So vehicles in general have a much longer development cycle. Usually it's 5+ years, and they're expected to last a long time on the road. So if you compare it to smartphone OEMs that have a new phone every year, of course we have to really be careful and think what would be the standard in a few years and kind of develop that. So predict a little bit the future, which is hard to do. And for that, it's very important to have a very close collaboration with suppliers and chipset manufacturers. Now, going back to Wi-Fi 7, I think this is great because basically it would be kind of the next jump for us and something that we will be looking at implementing it, as soon as we can in the future. And kind of the low-hanging fruit is really the multi-link operation capability, so MLO. This is kind of obvious for us to enhance the multi-band support. So not so much for the bandwidth. I think there's real good use case that would require higher throughput. But what is really interesting for us is the performance improvement and the latency improvement and the robustness of the multi-link operation capabilities. So for example, when you use CarPlay, and that bundled with 6 gigahertz is kind of the perfect cocktail for having a great experience.
Yeah, and people do rely a lot on CarPlay. But what about looking forward? You've talked a lot about how you need to work with the chipset providers and the smartphone providers and think about connectivity standards and technology in the future. But what about use cases in the future? What kind of emerging automotive Wi-Fi use cases do you see in the future?
I think we touched already a couple of them. For example, CarPlay and Android Auto, those are kind of established use cases that we will have more and more, or we will see more and more wireless implementations of it. But, we talked about Wi-Fi inside the vehicle, but Wi-Fi outside of the vehicle is also something very important. And so having the car act as a client, like your smartphone in your home network, is something that has its benefits. So if you think about, for example, connecting to your home network to do a kind of over-the-air update or some predictive maintenance, I think this is something that will be very important to do in the future. And I mean, in general, enabling new in-car entertainment experiences. So this is something we're looking forward to having in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that as more cars become electric and more cars have more autonomous features, those over-the-air updates are going to be really important, not just for convenience, but for safety too, right?
Yeah, I mean, in general, having a faster reach to the customer is something that makes sense, to update application or release new application or release new feature, just being faster into providing those new experiences. Of course, the car will need to be connected somehow to do that. So we have cellular at the moment and Wi-Fi in the future, but this will be a great way to achieve that.
So you talked about using the car as a Wi-Fi client for the home network. What about going the other way and offloading some of the traffic from the network to the car?
So yes, let's say we or the people have become very data hungry, especially when it comes to entertainment use cases. So when it comes down to streaming or downloading content or online gaming, all of these use cases where connectivity and data costs play a role, especially meter connection, then Wi-Fi offloading could be a solution there to, achieve overall better quality of service or, let's say, reachability.
Okay, excellent. Now, you are a little bit channel limited at 5 gigahertz. Is 6 gigahertz spectrum helping you address that challenge?
So yes, absolutely. 6 gigahertz really opens up the playing field. So you can have more channels and you can have different channel widths. And you can play a lot with that because sometimes we have, whilst driving or on the road, a lot of noise coming from, we have road tolls in Europe or kind of interference in general. And sometimes we have to switch or, reduce the channel width in order to keep the same performance on our side. And having those extra channels really gives you the kind of availability of spectrum that you would need to kind of maintain the same quality of service. And if you bundle that with Wi-Fi 7, then you kind of have the optimal configuration for future use cases.
So speaking of the future, what are your predictions for automotive connectivity in the next 5 to 10 years, particularly around autonomous driving?
Yeah, so 5 to 10 years, it's a lot of time, but also not a lot of time. In the concrete, I would say I expect as a first step to have 6 gigahertz overall more accepted and regulated across the industry. And you have to remember that, again, we're a much slower industry in, integrating new technology. It takes time compared to other industries. And following 6 gigahertz, I would expect the same from, for example, Wi-Fi 7 to be, let's say, gradually introduced into the automotive world and become quite prevalent. So this will allow for more use cases with existing devices. You will have new applications, and you will even have to handle maybe new kind of devices that don't exist yet. And this will require in some form to handle even new technology. So we talked about Wi-Fi, but we have Bluetooth, maybe we'll have ultra wideband, and maybe something new. Let's say outside of that, I think especially for automotive, vehicle to everything, so V2X will become, I would expect, much more widespread. And in terms of connectivity in general, especially for ADAS, I think the expectation is for the car to have kind of total coverage in all sort of locations. So we use 5G networks at the moment, but we can also look more into the direction of satellite communication through non-terrestrial networks, for example. And this will be, I think, of great interest for the automotive industry.
I think so too. And you mentioned ADAS. For anybody who's not familiar, that's Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. Is that what that is?
Correct.
For autonomous driving. Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. All right, this has been great. Walter Bronzi, Technical Product Lead for Connectivity Platforms and Wireless In-Car Services at BMW. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
And that is our show. You can get the signal straight to your device through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or of course at the Wi-Fi Alliance. That's y-fi.org. I'm Martha DeGrasse here for the Wi-Fi Alliance. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time on The Signal.